In this video, we'll introduce program and project management on the 3D Experience platform and the value it brings to a product development environment. So I'm going to log in as Bob, who is a project manager. Just put in Bob's password and that will come right to his dashboard. With the platform, dashboards are specific to the type of role and function that's being performed, and Bob, as a program manager here, sees all of his programs right when he logs in. Of course, it's configurable. He could see other things if that was desirable, but if he's trying to track his programs, he can take a look at any one of them. This view, of course, is filtered to only show active programs, so inactive or archived programs have been hidden from his view. We're going to drill down into a particular program, a collection of projects here. And what we see is another dashboard. So we've just drilled one level, right? So we've started at a high level with all the programs. We've drilled into the projects within one of those programs. It's interesting. And we've got a lot of information right at our fingertips here. So there are 4 projects within this program. And there are tasks behind each of these projects. We'll drill into that here in a minute. But there are deliverables also. There are issues that can be associated with the projects, and that's what we see over on the right. So another live dashboard that's filterable. So if we want to know just the pending tasks on the safety analysis project, we can just click on this bar and we'll have a filtered list of what those tasks are. So we get quick access to those. You can see percent complete. We can actually even assign percent complete if we're trying to update our projects here. Or we can go right back to the project view of that list. Likewise, we could look at just the deliverables, pending deliverables on that project. That's what's active. Now, let me just make a comment about these deliverables. These aren't just representations of a deliverable or a file or content that's somewhere else. These are actually in the system. So you'll notice lots of flashing as we go over hyperlinks, and it just seems like everything is hyperlinked, and that's kind of the point. Is all of the data is connected. These projects and programs are acting as kind of the nexus or hub for all of the product development activities. So we're connected to the CAD data. This is CATIA data right here. We're connected to a document. We'll see how all these connections work a little bit later. But we have other things like issues, right? Pending issues open on each of the projects. So if I go in and click this battery density study, you can see here all the issues related to that project. Again, quickly back out to our main list of projects. The other thing I want to drill into for a moment before we get into actual functionality, how this behaves, is the type of good information we have just visually at our fingertips. So I'm going to look into this safety analysis project that's running. This one's got some data. It's in process. There's some information about it. Another dashboard here, right? We can see as I float over, I get tooltips. I can control things by just clicking on different areas. If I just want to see the critical tasks, if I want to see things filtered in a certain way, I can do that. And of course, a Gantt chart, right? There's a lot behind the project, right? It's nice to have just track of the multiple projects within the program, but we can also take a look at the individual phases and gates related to it in the work breakdown structure. Where are we? What's our current date, status? What's the estimated compared with the actual? Where do we stand on the actual? We're just slightly behind here, we can see. So all this good information, even burn down of hours if that's something that we want to track. We've got other information back here on the business status tab. We have information about risk. If we want to track budget against benefits, we can do that as well. So all of this information right at our fingertips being updated as work is done in the platform on the project. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we see in terms of governing the projects and the tasks. So let's go back to our programs and create a new project and see how some of this functionality actually works. So if I take a look at the projects here, you can see we have these 4. What I want to do is come over to this menu and create not a program, but I want to create a new project, but I'm going to do it from a template. Okay, now there's a specific point behind this. We could create projects a number of ways. Copying from old projects, if we have some lessons learned we want to bring forward, or if we have a standardized template, like maybe a product development system in this case, we can leverage that and pull that across. So what we'll see here is there are a number of templates in the system. I'm going to pull this full business process template, which has been derived from information that we've gathered here from Bluebird. So what I'll do is I'll name the project. We'll say this is going to be a new energy study that's going to go in this program. I'll just put that in again. And we're going to copy over no financial data, but maybe some folders. Of course, I mentioned that these projects can manage data also. So we'll bring over the folders with the template. We'll go ahead and assign it to a program. We're going to put it in that 2020 electric bus program, or electric powertrain program, excuse me, so that it's connected with the right program and we can see these grouped. Of course, we could associate a project with multiple programs if it crosses, so we've got a lot of flexibility here as well. Last thing I want to do is identify when the project is going to start. We'll say this is a future start project. And I want to look at a couple of things here. I want to preview what this is going to look like coming from the template. So we can see this looks a lot like what is in the PDS project. But when I expand this out, the concept phase here, I want to look at this in the light of something here called a question, right? So you saw those subtasks, but questions are going to drive which subtasks there are in the template. So let me explain what I mean by that, what the project has here. So in PDS, there's a fast track and there's a full business process. So in the case where we say, all right, it is a fast track project, if I give it that answer and then preview what the schedule looks like, we're going to see that this concept phase only has these scope review tasks in it, right? So if I pull up this here, right, we can see for design tasks, if it's fast track workflow here, these steps are all skipped, right? So the only steps that are actually there, if we come down to PMO, these are not skipped, right? So there are these couple here, like start SOW as applicable, hold scope review, right? So these tasks stay in even if it's a fast track. But if I close this down and I change my answer here, right? So if I say no, I'm sorry, false. If I say that no, it is not a fast track project, and I take a look at the schedule that's going to be generated, we'll notice that in the concept phase, right, we have all of these concept phase design engineering review. We have concept phase advanced manufacturing engineering review, right? So if I just compare this quickly, right, and we come back down here to look at the design tasks, you could see here are all these concept phase design engineering tasks, right, laid into here. So based on the answers to questions, we can control how the template is applied, what tasks carry forward. So it's very smart in bringing forward standard work. So we'll just say done here. Let it complete creating the project and all of the tasks that are applicable pulled over from the template based on the questions that we answered. Okay, so now that we have a task, you can see we really don't have anything going on the dashboard, but let's take a look, like we saw in our preview, at the whole work breakdown structure, right? So if I drill in here, you'll notice we have different types of tasks, right? Phases with tasks, milestones, gates, things like that underneath it. One of the things I want to highlight about this, if you're thinking this is sort of glorified project, Microsoft project, that's one way of looking at it, but it's a fundamentally different way of running a project because everything's systematized here, right? So one task that's assigned, and let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about assigning a task. Right? So if I want to make task assignments, it's really just as simple as go to people on the project and talk about adding people to the project first. So I'll go ahead and add more people to the project so that they have visibility, they can participate, and I can assign them tasks. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to just scroll to the bottom here and say that Tracy Requirements and Sue Williams are going to participate on this project. Of course, it could be a much larger team than that. You'll notice we could also have a resource plan. I'm not going to take us through every bit of this, We have reports also about labor reports by person, resource loading. So if we have larger resource needs to figure out how to staff our projects, there's capabilities here for that too. But once I've got my members in the project, I'm going to come back to the schedule. Get these clicks right here. Okay. So I'm going to scroll to the right here, and you can see here are my 3 folks, right? Bob, my project manager, and the 2 resources that I added to the project. So looking down at this list, let's decide how much these people are going to work on these. So Tracy Requirements is going to be a 50% contributor to this task, and Sue Williams will also put in 50%. Bob Fallon's only going to be doing 10%. And of course, calculations are happening in the background here to understand, what kind of resource loading does that mean for Bob Fallon if he's only working 10% on a task over a period of a week or whatever that may be. But we'll give Tracy some other tasks here. We'll say she's 50% and 100% on this one. And you get the point, I think. Allocating resources is as simple as assigning to the project and then defining through a simple grid like this exactly which tasks they'll be working on. Now, here's the point that's so interesting, is now if I come over to this Engineering 1 task here, I'm not going to log out as Bob, right, and log back in as Tracy. But one of the things that's possible for Tracy as a participant on the task to do is she can easily come in, and we know this task was defined by the template, but she can come in and say, you know what, that's actually got a couple of subtasks to it. So I'm going to go in and add a couple of subtasks and further define what it is that the work that needs to get done here. So I'll just go in and click, right, work 1, work 2, and I'm going to set up a dependency, right, 3-day lag or 2-day lag there. So if we get that saved and we come back out to the project, we'll be able to see exactly how that worked out, right? And even if I take a look at the Gantt chart, we'll be able to see this task, right? Here's work 1 and work 2 and what got arranged there. Okay? So what's interesting now is I told you I didn't log out as Bob and log in as Tracy, but anyone who's participating in the project can further define their parts of the project. That's really interesting in a sort of systems approach to a project. They can't change the top level one, but they can add their detail underneath, again, to help capture that organizational knowledge for reuse and better understanding of, why is the project running long? What are the tests that are actually getting done? Things like that. So another thing, of course, that I'll come back into this concept phase. Another thing that Tracy can do here is add her own content by simply uploading files or connecting to data that's already on the platform. So I'll just connect the CATIA part here. So, knowing that it's just that simple to create a project and get people assigned to it, get things underway, let's go back and look at exactly what can be governed in the project as well. So we'll go back to our home screen and drill back into one of those projects. So from our 2020 electric powertrain program, you can see here, by the way, here's the energy study, the new project that we created with all the data that's live. I'm going to come into this safety analysis project, and let's have a look at it. We saw this dashboard a little bit earlier, but I want to take a look at a phase gate view. So typical product development, sort of traditional gated view of the project. Now, there are a number of things that are already running here. You can see the tasks are complete, but I'm a big fan of this view. This really relays a lot in a small area of the screen. So I just want to highlight a few other things that we're seeing. So here's our project. We've got the number of pending issues that we can just access. Again, a hyperlink. The status of the project, it's active. Could be early in a sign if it's still being planned. We can look at the whole history of the project here with that quick hyperlink. But down here, everything's pretty intuitive, right? We've got how many phases? 4 phases of the project. We've got the 4 gates that align with that. You can tell this phase is complete, it's green. This gate is complete, it's green. This phase is in process. The blue arrow tells us roughly where we are, about halfway through. The fact that it's red tells us we're a little bit behind. We can see the individual milestones. Again, hyperlinks for every one of them to drill down into them, and the milestones that we're behind on here. But I want to touch on the gates because we've got even more rich information here. So for this gate, there were actually a couple of meetings held. So clicking on the meeting will take us directly into that. What do we have here? These are just records of meetings. We could have meeting minutes behind them, things like that. It can actually connect to people's calendars and Outlook if we want. But other things, what are the deliverables associated with this gate? Because we're past this gate, right? It's been approved. So what got created and captured as part of that? Well, there's all the documentation that we can come in and subscribe to or download or view or things like that. What else do we have here? Well, decision capture. Again, another important piece when we're moving through large product development projects to capture the decisions and the knowledge that's being made. So here's the approved decision on this gate, but a couple of other decisions were related as well. So I can come in and look, this decision even has an attachment with it. What was the decision? All right, so this project is about safety analysis. So the decision was nothing above a 3 rating for explosive material, something related to the batteries, I think. And if I want, I can drill right into this. You see how many levels down I've come? But how this information about explosive material ratings and how it relates to a decision made at this gate of this project is right at my fingertips. So continuing on and drilling back out, I want to take a look at one last thing on a gate, which is a checklist, right? So every gate, to get past that gate, we need to make sure a few things are cleared, right? All tasks are verified as complete, yes. Budget estimate is ready, yes, etc. So if I come over to this gate, we'll notice we have a similar checklist for this, but we haven't answered these questions yet. So to get past the next checklist, someone will have to come in and actually provide a response, and that will be recorded here, comments, who was completed by, that kind of thing. And when we get to a gate like this, another way of looking at the data, again, because it's all present on the platform, linked and related as appropriate, we can see all the different types of information we have here and make a key decision, right? Whether the gate is approved, whether there's a conditional approval, or whether we have put the gate on hold or maybe canceled the project. So a number of things that we can do with the gates. So really, I just wanted to highlight how much visibility we have, but don't forget about that ability to drill down into things. So I'm going to go down into the design phase here and take a look at a few more things. We'll go right back to that work breakdown structure again. So we're going to load this up and we can see all the tasks and subtasks. I mentioned early on when we started looking at the project how this is sort of a nexus of information about the activities going on within the organization related to product development. Well, here's a perfect example of that, right? So what do I see here connected as a deliverable to this task, but a requirement? What do I see down here as deliverables? Here's CAD data, right? Here's bill of material data. So what do I want to do? I'm going to take a look at this specific task, understand it a little deeper, and then have a look at its deliverables. I mentioned that requirement as a deliverable. Well, if I take a look at that, remember, I'm still drilling, getting to my connected information. So I can track requirements in the PLM system. So on the platform, I can have granular, broken out, decomposed requirements and understand how those relate to various project tasks. Now, this isn't relevant for us here, but we'll come back to this later. The point is it's connected right within the activity structure of the product development process. So just another example here, I'll bring up this this CATIA data, right? So it just says, yeah, do you want to open that? Sure, I'll just bring that up in CATIA, and I've got quick access right to the 3D content. Now I could be doing this through a viewer too. I just happen to have CATIA here, so I'll just bring it up, take a look. If I need to go in and interrogate things, I can do all that because I've got the data right in the context of what I'm doing. So this is meant to be a quick overview of how the projects and programs within the platform connect us to all of the product development data, whether it's documents, CAD, bills of material, requirements, or whatever it may be. And The thing that we didn't really focus on is how these deliverables connect in. So I won't show it to you right now, but as these deliverables mature, for example, the release of this CAD data can drive the completion of this task. This is what we call invisible governance. So this is sort of the last value that I want to touch on here, is the ability for activities on the platform, just day-to-day normal activities that users will do, will connect back to the status of these tasks, which is what provides the real value coming back here, because all this statusing about all these dates being complete and actions being complete is not through project managers running around and asking users, are you done yet? Right? It's just through users working in the system. So all this great rich information available, updated live, based on people just doing their job on the platform.